Okay. I am Lugene Shelley. I am the Director of Support and Technology at Spark. And my co-conspirator today is Katie Martin. Katie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Katie Greenleaf Martin, and I am in my third day as the district consultant at the Altoona District Center, and then I am also the county coordinator for the Blair County Library System.
Okay, can you all see my screen? You should be looking at the Evergreen start page.
Yes, and Lugene, would you do me a favor and reread the objective so we can remind people what it is that we're doing today?
Oh yeah, let me see. I have it right here somewhere. Okay. Yeah. So we're hoping that you will leave this training with a better understanding of the library administration functions in Spark. What we'll be looking at is what goes on under this tab, the administration tab. But so we're hoping you'll be able to perform the administrative tasks found under this tab, and that you it might empower you to do more yourselves, that you won't have to open tickets with Spark support. I know one of the things we'll look at is registering a staff member. Some people open a ticket for that, and you really don't need to do that. So we'll look at a few things like that. And we'll also talk a little bit about the Spark community and how you can use that for support and advice and be an active participant in the Spark and Evergreen community. Okay?
Awesome.
Okay.
And Carrie, if you haven't already, we can go ahead and start recording.
So talking about the Spark community, I think Katie's going to start off with speaking to us about the user group.
Yeah.
Remember that, and what's the past vice president?
Yes, and our current vice president is here. Hi, Joel. So the many open source and traditional proprietary software as well have what are called user groups. And these are groups that let the people who use the software give feedback and participate in the development process for that software in various ways. So many of the states that use Evergreen have their own users groups that conduct training and make recommendations and help create documentation for the use of Evergreen in their particular instance. So Evergreen, Pales, Spark has had a user group for many years, but we kind of reorganized a couple years ago. And so many of you I see in the list were at either our user group meeting last year in State College, which was in 2018, or just this past April at the conference, the Evergreen International Conference at Valley Forge. So it's a really nice way to get information with more complex problems. If you're a reports person, there is a reports committee, and we frequently talk about ways to do more reports. If you are a cataloger or you support catalogers, as many administrators do, the cataloging committee is a really great way to get support and training for your catalogers. So it's a nice way to be involved, and we try to provide opportunities for people to contribute to the larger Evergreen project, as well as providing resources here for everybody in Pennsylvania. And of course, we have our wonderful Spark support staff who help us out when we have problems, but sometimes we need some help brainstorming or trying to figure out how to do something or asking about a new workflow. So the users group is a great way to do that. Did you want me to mention anything else about the users group, Lugene? Lugene, I think you're muted.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I was following my own advice to mute my microphone.
Okay, I'm going to turn my camera off and mute myself. So.
Okay. So let me share my screen here. What we're looking at right now is the Evergreen Support ILS Support Spark Evergreen ILS Support Portal, and the address is support@sparkpa.org. And you'll see we have a lot of information here. We use this cloud tag as a sort of table of contents. And if you scroll down here, you'll see in kind of big letters is the Spark listservs. And right here, this is under Spark support, we have a list of all of the Spark listservs. And we have Spark users, Spark Cat, Spark reports, Spark tech. You can sign yourself up just by clicking on that link, entering your email address. And if you have someone who leaves your organization, you can also unsubscribe. And that's at the bottom of this page. To unsubscribe from Spark users, you put your email address in there and hit unsubscribe. So as Katie said, that's a really good way to get involved in the community and stay in touch with everything. We do use Spark users to alert to downtime. As soon as the system goes down, I usually, as soon as I'm aware of it, I send out an email on Spark support or on Spark users, and that lets everybody know that the system has gone down. And then when it's back up, send another email to let you know that that's come back up. Okay, so moving on from there, let's just take a quick look at this administration tab. So you should be seeing my Evergreen login page. Let me get back to that right here. Okay, and this is the tab we'll be working with, this administration tab. And I do want to point out that I'm logged into the test server, and I'm logged in with a LibAdmin account. So everything I do today, LibAdmin should be able to do. So one of the first things I want to talk about is using the browser. 3.1, we've been using the browser. You can still use Zool, but when we move to 3.3, you can't use Zool anymore. Everything will be browser-based. So you want to use either Firefox or Chrome. We recommend Chrome. I am using Firefox today, though, because of some quirk with GoToMeeting. I can't share Chrome screens. So it just does not work well with Evergreen. It can be buggy. It can be unpredictable. This Firefox or Chrome. That's all we need. One or the other. I think it will work. It will work with Safari and Opera, but the two recommended browsers are Firefox and Chrome. You also want to make sure that you have pop-up blockers turned off. There are instructions to do this in either one of those browsers on the web, and I will be posting some of those instructions to the Spark knowledge base after we're done with this. So once we're in the browser and you've got your pop-up blockers turned off, the first tab is Workstation, and if you click on that, that takes you to this page. So the first thing to look at here is setting your default searches. And this is pretty self-explanatory. The default search library is what library is searched from the advanced search screen and portal page by default. And you can always override that. Once you have it selected, you can go anywhere else, but it will just default to this search library. So in this case, since I'm in Blair County, I'm going to pick the system, BCLS. The preferred library is the library used to show copies and URIs regardless of the library selected. So one recommendation is to set this to your workstation library so that the copies show up first in search results. So I'm going to mark this one as Altoona, BCALT. And this advanced search default pane, this is one that's primarily used by catalogers. So if you have a workstation that is just a cataloging workstation, you probably want to set this one to numeric, because when you go to give it a search then, excuse me, it defaults to this page. I'm sorry, it's my allergy season. It defaults to this page in the numeric search where you would want to search by ISBN. Okay, and that's helpful for cataloging. The other ones we set, you'll see if I just do a regular search, it defaults to Blair County. And I'm going to go back to this tab. And I'm going to let Katie talk about printer settings. Oh, I got my voice back. Okay.
Yep, sorry, I was muted still.
That's okay.
Okay, so bear with me a minute here while I make sure I know how to share my screen. All right, so hopefully you guys should be seeing my Evergreen splash screen.
Yes, we are.
Okay. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little ago here into workstation settings and talk a little about these printer settings. When you click on printer settings, you're going to get the interface for Hatch in order to be able to use these print settings. In 3.1, I do not recommend using Hatch. I am hoping to test it more in 3.3 since we just upgraded our test server. I haven't had a chance to do that. I saw it at the conference and talked with many people who believe that in 3.2 and later with Hatch, spine label printing is so much better and it's incredibly easier and it's wonderful. So I'm excited, but I haven't used it yet. So I am at this time not recommending that you use Hatch with 3.1. The second thing here is your print templates. Now, if you have not yet customized your print templates, I really recommend that it's something that you take a look at. And I'm always happy to share the print templates that I use and the print templates that I've used with other libraries. Right now, these are the default templates, and I'm actually going to bring in some templates to show you how to do that. So these are your default templates that you get with your Evergreen install. Now, what we have, can you guys, Lugene, can you see my file browser there, or is it just still showing the Chrome window?
It's showing the Chrome window.
Oh, okay. So all I'm doing right now is I'm going to navigate. We have our templates in a shared folder that everyone can access. And so I'm just importing our set of customized templates, and then you'll see this one change. So one of the things that we did is to take the staff member name off the bottom, add some more information into this block here, and then we do cost to buy these books, and then it adds up the prices of the books that were checked out, the value of your public library, priceless. So those are some nice customizations. You can also add websites and Facebook pages and things like that. Some people actually have images in their receipt templates, which is pretty cool. So there's a lot of customizability here. And so I recommend that you take a look at your receipt templates and see if there's a way that you can better use that as a marketing tool. And
Katie, let me just jump in here a minute. We do have some of those template packages in the knowledge base.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. So the ones that I've submitted previously, you can go ahead and put on there. And then if there's anything that you're wanting on receipts, you can either send that to the circulation committee list or send it to Lugene at support, and we'll help you get that figured out so that you can have them be exactly the way that you want them to be. I haven't done, there are some things like images that I haven't done before, but I really think not everybody reads their receipts, but some people actually do. So I think it's a nice thing to be able to at least customize a little bit. So I think, let me go back to the GoToMeeting window. Okay, so the files never upload. Jamie, are you? Oh yes, thank you, Joel. Images do have to come from a secure HTTPS server if you're using them in order to get them to show in the preview especially. So that's something that needs to be set up on your end. If you are going to do that, you do have to host the image somewhere so that it can be pulled from your website when it gets printed on the receipt. Jamie, are you trying to import your own templates that you've exported from your own from another desk, or are you trying to import templates that like I or someone else created from somewhere else? The first thing that I would suggest, if you haven't already tried this, would be to check to make sure that it is a JSON file. The file should be .json, and that's what Evergreen is going to be looking for when you upload those templates. So if we have time at the end, Jamie, let's come back to this. I do want to keep getting through our presentation topics. I'll try to think about it a little bit and see if there's anything that I can think of that would be an issue there. And certainly if we don't get it figured out today, you can let Lugene and Carrie know at support@sparkpa.org, and we can try to troubleshoot what's happening there. I don't know. Okay.
I was just going to say that we do have the ability to do this GoToMeeting on an individual basis where we can share screens. So we can take a look at that with Jamie individually if we didn't get to it today.
Yeah, the one thing I should say about receipt templates is because, and printing in general, is that because it is very customizable and it also involves interaction with hardware, it is very individual to try to troubleshoot that. And so I know I've walked many people through it on the phone, and I'm always happy to do that. Carrie and Lugene are happy to do it, but it hasn't been the same solution twice in my experience. So you may need, if any of you are having printing issues, let us know and we can make sure you get some individual help. I realized I didn't set my search libraries on this workstation. I like to have mine, I'm often cataloging, so I set to search all of Spark, and then I set my preferred library to my
yeah, that's something I didn't get to before my voice gave out. If you're cataloging, yes, you do want to default to Spark so that you see the whole catalog to make sure that that you're seeing all the items that are in there, so you're not bringing in a new item when it's already in the catalog. You also want to default to or search at the Spark level when you're looking for patrons. I just want to. Well, go ahead.
So it depends on how your database is set up. So like we're set up so that if someone, for instance, comes in here who already has a Bedford card, which is an adjacent library system to us, we want them to also have a Blair County card. So I have all my 8 libraries search at the system level as opposed to their individual library level, because the home library could be anywhere in the system. But we don't. What happens with me when my desk staff search at the Spark level is they end up trying to edit a patron from another library system, and then they get errors. So
yeah, that's
not here. That's in the actual patron search interface.
Right. Okay.
And then I think I'm still up, and we're going to move over to the local administration. Go ahead.
Can I just let me catch a couple things I didn't get there before my voice gave out.
Okay.
Now I'm going to take the screen back. So we talked about the default search libraries. The advanced search default pane, like I said, I like to put it at numeric if you're a cataloger. You can also set it to advanced or Mark Expert. I didn't know, Katie, if many people use Mark Expert. That's a Mark search. But the numeric is best for catalogers. We also have on this page disable sounds. People sometimes really hate these noises. So there's no way to, it's all or nothing. You can disable sounds and then you just turn them all off. So if they really bother you, you can turn them off. And we also have registered workstations under this administration tab. So for the most part, you will have your workstation set up. But if you're setting up a new workstation, or if you clear your cache and this all gets deleted, you will need to register a new workstation for this browser. And it's really straightforward. You just select your library from the workstation or from the list, enter a workstation name, and register it. And then you'll see beneath that there's a list of workstations registered with this browser. If you click the drop-down box, you'll see the list of browsers, and you can just use whichever one you want to use. But I'm going to stay with this LibAdmin test right now. And it is set as my default, and I can remove it if I want to. So let's take that other one I just created and remove it. Okay. So now this is the only one that I have on this browser. Okay. And I think that takes care of everything I was going to talk about here now. All right. Okay, Katie, start back to you.
All right. Oh, great reminder from Joel. So in 3.3, we are going to see some of those settings that are managed currently. If there's this stored user preferences, and more of the store right now. So when you you'll notice if you have to reinstall your browser, or you go to a new computer and you have to re-register the workstation, that it does reset all these preferences and like all your columns and anything that you've customized.
Right.
So not all of those things, but more of those things are moving to the server in 3.3, so that if you do have to, you can actually reconnect with a workstation that you've set up. And so I've only seen that in demo. I haven't played with it myself yet, but I think that is going to be a really good development, and kind of, at least in my mind, get rid of one of the disadvantages of doing it through the browser, which is being able to have those preferences stay with you even when you have to clear your cache or reinstall your browser. So I'm going to move here to the local administration tab, and we're going to do this not in alphabetical order, but in order of who's presenting it, just so that Lugene and I can share the screen back and forth fewer times. But you will see that these are in alphabetical order, which those of us who've been with Evergreen for a while remember that this was not the case before we went to the web client, so that makes it a little easier. The other thing that I use to cheat on here is my Control F. So if I'm like, I know that that the address alerts are in here somewhere, but I don't remember what they're called, so I can search for alerts, and it's going to give me then all the things, highlight all the things in the screen that have that word in it. So I like to use my my find function. Address alerts is something that's really helpful for libraries that have various group housing units. And I don't, since it's the test server, I don't have any that are set up on here. We have used it in the past with some of our group housing and with some of our rehab and halfway house properties. And that's just to let the staff know that if a person is coming in and they're using that address, then they need to be, in our case, the temporary patron type and not be given a regular 3-year card. So what these let you do is to fill in certain information, and then once you fill that in, when you go to register a patron with that information, then it's going to alert you. So I'm going to go ahead and cheat and just set up one really fast here because I think I can set it up this way. I'm gonna try to alert for any patron that lives in Altoona, and we're gonna see if this works. So what I would do is I would type in my alert message, and then whatever address fields I want that to match with that in order for it to give me that alert. Oh, and I need to also make it active. That'd be bonus. And then when I go to circulation and I go to register patron, if I go to their address, oh, well, maybe you need more. You may need more info in there, like a barcode and stuff, to get it to come up. But the way it works is it gives. It's going to, up here in this space on the top right, where you'll see what this, people with the same name. Then you would also get an alert that would match, would have the alert to, oh, yep, so there we go. 1,000 patrons with the same address. So because it's giving me, all the, more than 1,000, and then it's giving me that alert. So if you wanted an alert for everybody who had a certain zip code, street name, or town name, you can use that interface, and then this is the type of alert that your staff is going to get. It's not going to prevent them from registering anybody. It's just going to give them an alert. So I think I had to enter the name and then go back down. But if you were doing it in the if you're doing it in the normal way in which you would enter a patron, you would be doing it that way anyway. So I think it would be fine, because it seemed to be entering the name that actually triggered it to bring those up. So I'm going to go back to local administration, and I don't actually want to register this patron, so that's fine.
And Katie, I think too, when you're setting up that address alert, if you put, where it says state, if you put Pennsylvania in, it will only target on Pennsylvania and won't pick up PA.
Yeah. So if I put PA as opposed to Pennsylvania, or
it would only trigger on those that have PA.
Yeah. So if you wanted address alerts, say for anybody who had an adjacent state, like if you wanted everybody who was giving a Maryland address to have an alert saying that they need to pay an out-of-state user fee, then you'd probably want to make two. You'd probably want to make one for MD and one for Maryland, so that no matter how the staff enters that, it's still going to get the alert.
Must this be set up on each computer that will be making cards?
No. This is something that you're going to set up as the administrator, and then it's going to show up at anybody who, so if I made this as the owner, BC ALT, so this would only show up at Altoona, but if I made it for my whole library system, it would be for everybody in the library system. So you could choose, you can choose any of your org units that you have assigned to you. And it's going to show up for every patron registration at that org unit level and below. And I'm going to
thank you.
Sorry?
Betty said thank you. I said, oh, told her she's welcome.
You're welcome, Betty. Okay, next up we have cash reports, one of my favorite things. So we do, in my library system, we use a lot of reports to look at our payments in more detail. But what the cash report screen is going to give you is a breakdown of the payments that were submitted at a particular library in a particular, oh, and I'm on the test server, so there are, of course, are not any payments. I was like, I can't believe they didn't have any payments last week. So if you were, if you want to, Lugene, while I'm talking about this, if you want to go ahead and bill Opie and then pay that bill, then I can show how it will show up. But this is going to give you information about the payments that happened in a particular date range at a particular library. Now, I'm not going to have permissions for most of these libraries in the dropdown, but as a system administrator for multiple libraries, I can look at any of my libraries. And then it's going to give me the payments broken down by workstation, so that's desk payments, and broken down by user, and so that's going to be whoever was logged in. We use workstation logins at my libraries, so this distinction isn't particularly useful. It does give you breakdowns by payment type, credit card, check, cash, but it doesn't break it down by what they're actually paying for, so it doesn't break it down by circulation bills versus any of the billing types that you may have set up. So we actually use reports to be able to get that information out so that we can see how much money came in for video rentals versus fines versus people who bought flash drives, because we actually need that information for tax purposes, because we do have to pay sales tax on some of those items. So I find it a really useful interface. If you are doing any of your cash management through Evergreen as opposed to using a cash register, then I have a whole presentation on how you can use this screen in combination with some recurring reports in order to be able to do that. So if any, that should be on the knowledge base as well, and it's certainly on the sorry, I was reading the question in the chat. So the presentation that I made should be also in the knowledge base, and it is definitely in the presentation archives from the Evergreen conferences where I gave it. Joel, is address alert library administration only? I believe so. Cash reports can be accessed by CERC supervisors and maybe even CERC clerks. I haven't tested the permissions on that one. But yes, this is something that can be done by a range of staff members. And you know, our financial staff aren't necessarily LibAdmins, and so they can use that cash report screen as well. Okay, thank you, Lugene. So this is giving us the workstation name and that it was paid in cash. And so it gives you some pretty basic information, and it also gives you totals. So if you just want to know, if you just want to be able to balance in terms of fine money to make sure that the amount of money that you took in matches what the ILS thinks you took in, this is really useful because it's going to break it down by cash, check, and credit cards. And then if you have anything that's forgiven or assigned to the work payment type, then those show up down here and they're listed by user. And yes, your CERC supervisors can certainly see this. You don't have to be a LibAdmin to use this screen. Any other questions on the cash reports or the address alerts before I move on here? I'll give people.
I just forgave part of that bill, so I don't know if it'll turn
Ooh,
up or
okay.
not.
See if it'll show up here.
There might be a bit of a lag.
Oh, thank you. Yes. So the credit, forgive, work, and goods are going to show up here. I have never used the work and goods, but if you wanted to do a food for fines kind of thing, where people bring in canned goods for the food bank in exchange for a reduction in their fines, you could use this goods payment option and have your staff track it that way, and then you would actually know how much fine money was paid, quote unquote, through that program. Same for if you, I have never met a library system where they let people work off their fines, but apparently it's a thing somewhere. And so that's something that's available to you to use. Some LibAdmins do like to see who's forgiving fines and how much. And so this is a way that you can look at that. You would need to use a report, though, to figure out exactly whose fines had been forgiven and the exact time of the transaction. Okay, I'm going to move on to something that I learned about while preparing for this training. I had never seen the work log before, and I don't know if it's because it's new or because I just never looked at it, but this is a way that you can actually see who's doing what at a particular workstation. So I went by the front desk this morning and looked, because I thought, I wonder if you have to be logged in as a LibAdmin to actually be able to see this. And you don't. There was a CertClerk login that I was using, and they could see I think ours is set to 10 most recently logged staff actions and most recently affected patrons. So in a way, this is similar to the Retrieve Recent Patron screen, but it also gives you the item that's associated with them and what was going on. So I'm going to check something out to myself real fast here. So that we can see what that looks like. Oh, the test server, so many things checked out. Let's renew some things for me here. Excuse me while I override. Okay, and then if I refresh my work log here, I will see all these recently logged staff actions. But so there's 18 actions for those 9 items, but there's only 1 affected patron. So this is a nice way to be able to see what's going on, or to be able to figure out some more information. If there was something that came by a while ago and you're trying to figure out who it was, or what they were doing, as long as you're on the same workstation, you can go ahead and look up and see what was going on there. It's interesting to me that you can't, I guess it's a privacy thing, that you can't get the full patron name or the barcode, but you can get the last name. Oh, and then okay, so there's Retrieve Patron here, so that's okay. So it's not a privacy thing, it's just that you can go ahead and retrieve that patron. So if you're trying to figure out a mystery, or you're just keeping tabs on your staff, I guess. You can check this out. Since everybody can, since any staff login level can see this, you may want to be a little bit conscientious about who you train to look at this screen, depending on the staff dynamics at your particular place of work. I will leave that up to you. But I do think it's a neat tool, and it was not one that I was familiar with previously. Let me check for questions.
Yeah.
Busy time.
Yeah.
Registrations. Yeah. Okay. Where did I go to get to that screen? It is local administration work log right here at the bottom. You are welcome. All right, and then I'm going to show you guys one more thing before I throw it back over to Lugene here. And that is the non-cataloged types editor. And this is one that I frequently have to search for. There it is. So you may have noticed, and you may use these on a regular basis, that in the checkout screen, you guys can see my patron account here, right? I'm not just sharing the one tab. I hope.
Yeah, we can see you going to checkout now.
Checkout. Okay, so when you do this drop down from, if you click on barcode and you have this drop down menu, these are the various things that you can track numbers of. So here at the Altoona Library, the paperbacks and the magazines are the big ones. And then they also track some attendance and room rentals and things like that to get those counts. And I have one library that uses this extensively, and you can tell by the number of things they have in their drop-down. They actually, for instance, for their summer reading, they actually break it out by the age level. So they can just run a report on these non-catalog types and get their summer reading attendance numbers for their summer reading report. I think what they do is they keep track during the day and then they put it all in at the end of the day. But then at the end of the summer, the director just runs one report and gets all her attendance already broken down the way that she wants it. So we do use some of them for people, but we also use them for sometimes for things that do you leave the building. The way that we distinguish here at our library so they don't show up in the same report is that if it's something that's not leaving the building, so if it's something like attendance, then it's always done in in-house use. So we run the report of non-cataloged in-house use items, and those are things like use of computers or attendance in rooms or things that are used for other reports but do not count towards our circulation numbers. Then if it's something that actually leaves the building with a patron, like a puzzle or a non-catalog paperback book, then we actually circulate that to the patron. If it's not a patron who has a card, we use a dummy patron. And then that way those show up in our non-cataloged circulations report, and those can be added into our circulation totals. So not all of my libraries use this. Some of them still prefer the old-fashioned piece of paper with tick marks on it. Some of them do a hybrid where they use tick marks during the day and put them in at the end of the day, and some of them put them in as they go. It just depends on what's convenient for your library. But we find this, because of the flexibility that you have in reporting, really useful, because then you can actually tell, you know, if you wanted to know, do you have more people coming to youth programs on Mondays than on Wednesdays? You've already got that information broken down that way, and you can run all kinds of reports on it. So I find that a really useful tool. There are these ones that are at the Spark level we're always going to see. And then again, you can set them up, like I have some that everybody uses, so they're for my whole library system, and then mostly they're by library. And these are all the different ones that are used at my libraries.
And Katie, looking at that, you'll see that the ones that belong to Spark are grayed out, that they can't be edited.
I cannot edit those.
Right.
And then if I want to put in a new one, all I need to do is fill in this information here at the top: name, circulation period, circulate in-house, so whether or not it's something that leaves the building. It will still show, regardless of whether or not you check this checkbox, it will still show up in both the in-house use dropdown and the checkout dropdown. And then what org unit you want to assign it to. I'm not sure why my org units are listed 3 times, but anyway. So if it's something you want multiple libraries to be able to use, you need to do it the next level up. And if it's something that's for an individual library, then you can assign it just to that library so it doesn't clutter up the list for everybody else. And yeah, it's one of my favorite things to really reduce the number of different spreadsheets and tracking tools that we're using. You know, it's some libraries, it's like, well, the magazines are on check marks on a piece of paper, and the programs are in a spreadsheet, and everything else is in the ILS. This can let you kind of streamline that, and also still keep that visibility to your administration. So I like that one. If nobody else has questions, then I will hand it back over to Lugene. Lugene, I think you may be muted.
No, okay. But for some reason, for me, that's such a sensitive button. I think I hit it twice to unmute myself, and then I mute myself again. But anyway, so I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Let me just make sure I've got the right one up. So we're back to where we were, where we're looking at the administration tab and the registered workstations. So I want to go back here just to be sure that we know how we all got here. This is the administration, and Katie is in local administration. That's where she just demoed. And I'm going to pick up a couple things here too. We're not going to cover all of these today because a lot of these are things that we would prefer to do in support. One of them would be like circ limit sets. It's just easier if I set that up when we do your circulation policies. The circulation limit set tells us how many things someone can take out, like at Pottsville. They want to limit patrons to 3 seasonal items. So this is where we would set that up. So that's something I will do for you in support. So we're not going to go over how this tab works. But the next one I want to look at is the closed dates editor. And as Katie pointed out, it's alphabetical, and it's right here. This is something I know a lot of you have to wait for board approval to do your holidays. But once you have them, you want to put them in here as quickly as you can because this does affect your circulation. The circulation policies will look at these closed dates to set how many days out the items do. And it's fairly straightforward. You want to scroll all the way down. We were practicing a little bit here. We have Altoona closed for Memorial Day in 2022. But there are a couple of things to remember. The dates have to be in this format, year, month, day. And if you're adding times, they have to be in hour, minutes. So if you're adding a single day closing, you're closing for the 4th of July in 2020. You click that, and I'll have to scroll down a little bit to save it. Click Add Single Day Closing. You do have a calendar widget, so you can just select it through that way, or you can enter by hand. But I'm going to move this one out to July 4th, 21. Well, okay, let's do 2022 because it's Monday. And so I pick the day, I get it in this little box, I put in the reason for closing. Now, if I were a system admin like Katie is, I would, and I wanted to close all my libraries, if I wanted to close everybody in Blair County on July 4th, I would click Apply to all my libraries.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
It's all Spark.
Yeah. And
so don't use
but
don't apply to your libraries.
Oh, it did it for you for all of Spark.
That Elizabeth told me that once. I haven't personally tested it.
Oh, okay, because I did close everybody once in all of Spark, but I was in my superpower.
Oh, maybe if you don't have permissions.
Yeah, it might just be your work. It should just be your work orgs.
Okay, well, you keep going.
Okay, so I did apply that to all my libraries. This is the test server, so we'll check it to be sure. So I applied it to all of my libraries and click Save. Okay, if I want to add multiple closing dates, you see you get a range. So you would use this if you're going to be closed over a weekend. You would put in Saturday through Monday. Again, you'd have to put the reason down and click Save, which always falls off the screen. If you want to add a detailed closing, this one allows you to add a start date, a time, or you can choose all day, and an end date and time. When we go to 3.3, you will have an emergency closing. You'll have the ability to mark when you're closed for snow days, or if the power goes out, or there's a water main break or something. And we will cover that. Katie talked about our little bite-sized trainings. We'll cover that in the little bite-sized trainings. But for the time being, using 3.1, this is how you can set your closing dates. And I'm going to uncheck Apply to all my libraries. So let's go back and add another single day closing. Yeah, Katie.
Joel is saying that he's able to use it for Cambria without affecting other org units.
Okay.
I did one, and it did do all of my Blair County ones. But of course, you and I are both logged in as Blair County, so we wouldn't be able to see if it affected other ones. But I think we would have noticed if Joel had added a closing for all of us. So we'll go with that about that one. Thank you, Joel.
So this would be how to add the multiple or the detailed closings. And I'll end it at, and this clock works in 24 hours too. So you have 12 is 12 noon, 13 is 1 p.m. The clocks in Evergreen work that way. So we'll end it at 2300.
So when you put in a partial day closing like that, you will still have books that are due on that day, but you will not continue to accept whole. So one of the things that the closing dates editor does is on a day you're closed, it won't send holds to your library. And so if you put in that like afternoon closing, then it will during that time not send new hold requests to your library. Patrons can still place them, but if you're the only copy, it'll wait until the next day to put it on your pull list. And then I think the other thing that the detailed closing does is that it after, so if an item, if it's a 1 week item, if you're checking it out 1 week from that day after say noon, then it would make it due the next day. But if you check it out in the morning, it's still due in the morning. I'm not sure about that. It might not bump it to the next day.
Okay. And the other thing I want to point out here is, you'll see I entered this one twice. If I want to delete a closing, I can just go here and delete. Now, if this is far enough out that it's not affecting my circulation, but if I had a closing, like I thought we were going to be closed on tomorrow because I thought we were updating the heating system in the library. And that turns out to not be the case. So I delete that closing. It will not affect the due dates of items that were already checked out. It will affect the due date of items moving forward, but it won't change anything that's already been checked out. So that's one thing to keep in mind, that it's not retroactive. It doesn't go in and automatically change the due dates. Okay. Anything else for that one, Katie?
No, thank you.
Okay. I do want to get back to one that I didn't have on the agenda. I've had a couple questions about this in Help Desk, and I'm not sure if I need to check, because it just occurred to me that this might also be a cataloging permission. But we do have this copy locations editor. And this is one of those things, if you feel comfortable doing it, go ahead and do it. If you don't, you can certainly open a Help Desk ticket with us. But if you want to add a new shelving location, and they use copy locations and shelving locations. Some places in Evergreen is called copy location. Other places it's called shelving location. And I think with 3.3, there will be consistent language for this. So you wouldn't have to think it's the copy location the same as shelving location. It is. But if you want to set up a new shelving location, you just need to enter the name correctly. And I will say Altoona has, when I look at theirs, they have adult before some of their shelving locations, and then they also have children's. So I'm going to stick with that same nomenclature. So I'm going to call this adult hobbies. And I do want to see it visible in the OPAC. I want people to be able to see it in the OPAC, so I'll put it there. I'll make a check mark at yes. Hold, verify, check-in alert. I don't want either one of those. I do want it to be holdable. The items on the shelving location be holdable. And I do want it to circulate. Now this will be an Altoona item. So my owning library is Altoona. If it were something that I wanted to apply across the Blair County system, I would select BCLF, but this is just for Altoona. Okay, and then I want to create a new copy location. And if we go down here, this is one thing that bothers me. This header doesn't travel with you, so you sort of have to just remember what these boxes are. But if we go down here to adult hobbies, let me see if I can grab that. I can't. But as we work across this this grid here, you'll see that it is holdable. It does circulate. So we have the check marks in the right places. If I want to edit this, I can just move over here to edit. And I can make the changes I want to make. And hit submit. What you can't do is delete. And that's because if there's anything on that, in that shelving location, we can't delete it. So we have done this before where we've asked the libraries to run reports and move everything off of a copy location, and then Spark support can delete it. But that is one thing, if you ask us to delete a copy location, you need to make sure that everything is out of that copy location, or it won't be deletable. Okay. And again, if you feel comfortable doing this, go ahead and do it. If you don't, you can certainly open a support ticket with us. And you will want to open a support ticket if you want to have special circulations for that copy location. Like you want everything in that it's a book copy location, but you want everything to go out for 7 days instead of your traditional 14. Then you will need to open a support ticket with us, because we'll have to set up a new circulation policy. Which takes me to the other thing I was going to talk about. So let's go back through this tab. You'll see here in this local administration tab, we have circulation policies. As a LibAdmin, you can view the policies for your library. You'll see this didn't fill in. So what I want to do is go up to Filter, click on Filter. This brings up this little filtering box, this little sortable box. And the first row, I want to choose org unit. And then I want to pick one of these little is or is not, but for the most part, I always use is. And then I want to put in ECALT and apply. And here you see that I can see all of Altoona's circulation policies. And this is a messy screen, and I know that, and I don't know how to fix it. This is the way it comes out. And you cannot export it, which is another problem. There's no way to download this into a Excel spreadsheet. If you open a ticket with support, I may be able to get it from Equinox, have them download it. I'm not sure how clean it'll be, but if you really want to know what your circulation policies are, we can do it that way. As you look at it in this screen, you'll see it goes across, but if you click on this checkbox, put a check in there and then double click on it, you'll see the policy as it's configured. I would ask you not to change any policies. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. But I would ask you not to change any policies, but if you want to come in here and look at them, that's great. You can come in here, and if you're wondering what this copy location, the Altoona Book Club, if you're wondering what that circulates at, and you see that it's 28 days, 1 renewal, and you want to knock that out to maybe 45 days and 0 renewals, open a help desk ticket, and I will do that. It's also helpful when you open that help desk ticket if you give me this match point ID number, because I can filter down. That's the number associated with this specific policy. Okay, so I know that I'm looking at this policy and this is the one that you want changed. The reason I'm asking you not to do it yourself is because, especially in libraries that are in a resource sharing environment, changing something in here can really mess up a couple other policies. So I would rather do it, and because I can check to make sure that everything works well together. So, and you'll see they also have a link set here. So in Altoona, you can only take out 3 of the adult book club books. So I showed you how that was set up a little while back, but yeah. So this is where you can see the duration rule, the recurring fine rule, grace period, maximum fine rule. And this is another one that's, let's look at another one here. I'm going to cancel this. If I go back, it knocks me out of this completely. So I just want to cancel. There can be multiple pages of circulation policies. If there are, click next. I'm going to get back. I'm going to change my filter, and I'll look at BCLS. So these are the ones that Blair County has set at the system level, so they apply across the system. The ones that were set to BCALT and they apply to Altoona. The BCALT policies don't apply to the other libraries in the Blair County library system. So that's why I like to do these through support, just so I'm sure I'm at the right spot and doing the right thing. And I do want to point out how complicated these policies can be. Let me see how this one loads. Send in mode.
Lugene, do you mind if I answer a couple of the questions from chat?
No, go right ahead.
So Betty asked, is there a limit on how many you can have? I don't think there is a numerical limit. Something that you need to keep in mind is that the more policies that the computer has to sort of sort through every time you do a circulation, the longer potential time that's going to take, and also the more confusing it's going to be for your staff and for Spark support when we're trying to figure out why something did what it did. So we have a lot of policies in our library system, and it doesn't seem to what I would consider to be a lot of policies. But that's kind of the limiter that you want to put on it is how complicated do you, can you have, how many copy locations you can have? No, I don't think there is a limit. It's however many you want to look at in that drop down menu. I have a library that has their easy readers shelved by like there's an easy reader Dora and an easy reader Sesame Street and an easy reader something else. And so they have probably 3 times the number of shelving locations that my other libraries do, and it does not seem to be a problem. It's just how many things your cataloger has to scroll through before they get all the way through. Joel, what you were asking something about a URL, and I'm not sure when you were copy locations URL. I think that would probably be, I think the URL there would probably be to a URL that described like a documentation URL. The only reason you'd want to do it for your like cloud library or overdrive items would be if you actually assign items to, like, you catalog your overdrive or other items as you actually assign them barcodes, which is a workflow I've seen some people use. So I'm not sure what that's for, but my guess would be documentation.
Yeah, I don't think we have anyone who uses URLs in the copy locations editor in Spark.
Jamie, I had the same problem, and I've actually had Lugene pull these for me because I couldn't figure out how to do it. If you click that filter button and you have to do filter copy location or filter org unit is and put in and select sorry, yeah, back to circulation policies. Thank you, Lugene.
Okay, so we can go back here to circulation policies.
So it will not, like, see, it's not even loading for Lugene here. And then she's going to do, she's clicking on that filter button, and she's going to do org unit is.
And there is a drop-down box here, so you can choose any of these.
And then only after you select is, you get to actually select your org unit.
Yes, if I want to look at, if you see here, BCLS is a system. So if I want to just look at, say, Williamsburg, and I think I have permissions to do this. Yeah.
So what I was doing was I was hitting the filter button, and then I was putting my org unit name in that first box, and that does not work. You have to do org unit is, and then select the org unit you want to view. And then it should load for you. If you are a LibAdmin, it should load for you after that. And if it doesn't, then take a screenshot of the filter that you're trying to do and send it to support. And it could be a permissions thing or something. We'll get it figured out. I thought the same thing. I thought, ooh, someone looked it up in the help documentation. When a URL is entered in this field, the associated copy location will display as the link in the public catalog summary display. This can be useful for retrieving maps or other directions to the copy location to aid users in finding material. Oh, okay. So when you're in your OPAC, where it has the copy location, instead of that just being text, it would be linked, and you could link that to an image of the map of your building so that people would know where to go. That is cool. Thank you, Natalie, for looking that up. I did not know that before. Now I kind of want to think about how to implement that. Could be also really cool if you have like a special collection or something. Do you guys use that, Joel? Do you use that at Cambria? Well, or do you mean you already know where everything is?
I already know where I want to use that.
Oh, yeah. Use it. Awesome. I'm thinking too of like you have a special collection, like I have some genealogical collections that then also have digitized collections and web pages that are about those collections. So I could link the shelving location to the website that's actually about that location, you know, like about that collection. So yeah, that's, can't say I didn't learn anything today. That's exciting.
Okay, and I'm going to put on my support hat for a minute. If you do anything like this, please keep good documentation of it in case we run into a problem. Because anything that comes to me through support, I can go back through the help desk and look to see what happened. But if it's something you're doing and then all of a sudden you run into a problem and need help from support from the help desk, if you can document this and keep track of what you did, that would be really helpful. So,
and so you're talking about policies, or you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about like if you change a shelving location.
Okay.
Or something like that. Like I said, I would really prefer that you not do anything with policies just because it's so complicated. You can see here with these policies, it takes into account the copy circ library, the copy owning library, the user home library. You can have a circ mod in a copy location. Altoona, Williamsburg is not, Blair County doesn't really use this, but we do have libraries where they have a number of things in the equipment circ mod that are in different locations, and they want them to go out with different circulation policies. So we would set up a policy for equipment with a specific copy location, and then we would have its own duration rule separate from the other equipment.
We have some
or sometimes
you want to pull that up.
Okay. Or sometimes you want to just restrict something to a adults only, so we can set up a policy for that. And we do that through what permission groups can borrow.
Oh, no,
and you can add
do Altoona, not BCLS. I'm sorry.
You can add a second row if you want to sort by org unit and then by something like circulation modifier. I will tell you it doesn't always work. Even I have problems with that. So let's see if it does this time. Yep. If it's going to work, you'll see the little round circle thing up here. But let's take book off of here. And we'll search again for you. See that little spinning circle? And that's how we know they come out. Okay.
Yes, you can see there we have some policies for outreach. We have the book clubs. We have our hotspots. We have several that are just for individual shelving locations.
Right. And you'll see they, like for the adult book club, they didn't want that to circulate to ILL. So in this column, circulate is false. Okay. Since we're in the test server, I'm going to say if you want to play with it in the test server, go ahead. But please don't change any circulation policies on production until you talk to me about it. Or talk to support about it. Okay. And do we have any more questions on the circulation matrix? If we implement. Oh, okay. Joel's talking about how he's going to use the shelving locations. He says if we implement it and find out how it works out well, we'll share it with everyone. That would be great, Joel. Even if you want to record how you did it, that would be wonderful. So let's go back here. We'll go back up to the administration tab. We'll go to local administration. And we just looked at the circulation policies. But let's look at the hold policies too. Same thing. You'll get this empty screen until you filter. And again, it's the same thing. This time I'm going to do it by owning a library. Katie, are you set up at the system or the? If I do BCLS, will I get anything?
I think so. Maybe not.
Okay. It's not working there either. Okay, well, let's look before. You're going to see the same thing as you saw in the circulation policy. Once you filter, maybe it's because I'm in the test system, but once you filter, you'll see the same thing you saw in the circulation policies. You'll see a matrix. And again, please don't, especially with the whole policies, please don't edit them. If you see something you want to change, let us know.
Lugene, go back to filter.
Yep.
So, oops, didn't load it there. Okay, so if you click on that drop-down box, you actually can't filter just by org unit. You have to figure either by user home library or requester library.
Oh, okay. So user home library.
Yeah. So Jamie, this is the same thing I think that, or the same thing I think you're encountering that I was encountering, is you type it in and it looks like it's fine, but because it doesn't match what's in the drop down, it gets mad at you. Oh, maybe not.
PC. I wonder if there's something wonky going on with this because it's the test server.
Yeah, they may not have brought the policies over.
Yeah. Anytime I've tested this in production, you should be able to do it. Okay, so we'll move on from here then. So like I said, you should see the same thing, a matrix. It works the same way. You'll have the little check boxes over here that you can check on to look at the full policy. And if you have any questions, open a help desk ticket. So let's go back to local admin, and we'll go into library settings editor. This one is where you see, if you've been through migration and Erica asked you a whole lot of questions about how you want your fines set up, do you want what you want your loss processing fee to be, things like that. That's where this goes. It goes into this grid. And my context location is BCALT, but you will see that there are some here for Spark. And they're grouped alphabetically by their group, acquisitions, let's go down here a little bit, booking, cataloging, and that didn't fill in the whole way. But so let's look. It does have a search filter up here. So let's look for lost materials. Okay, so if I look here, I see for lost materials, Altoona has a lost materials processing fee of $5. So you can edit this. Again, this is one of those things I want you to be very careful about doing, because I did have someone who opened a help desk ticket once, that a manager who opened a help desk ticket, that a setting had been changed. Something wasn't behaving the way he thought it should be, and when I looked, it had just been changed, because I can see history here. You can too, of how things have been changed and the date. We have the date and time. So again, you can open a help desk ticket if you want me to do it for you. If this is something you think you're comfortable doing and you have the correct permissions within your library to do that, if you're the person authorized to do it in your library, you could change these. For example, if Altoona wanted to raise theirs to $10, see that and update the settings, and I am in the test server, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then if I go into the history, I can see that this morning, 6/19, I changed that to 10. Okay. And now I'm going to change it back, even though I am in the test server, just so I don't really confuse people when they come in to use the Altoona testing. Okay, so I went back to 5. And again, you can see that in the history. Well, might need to update. But yeah, okay. Do I have any questions? Oh, you can, you'll see here that this has an export button. So you can export, but it's messy. This is what it looks like. I did this earlier and you got this error, but you'll see that that's highlighted, so you can use the Control-C to move it to a document. And I did that earlier with this one. And that is the screen. You'll see what it looks like. So bite-sized is better if you're looking at maybe your lost items fee or your lost items policy and you want to print them out. It might be better to just look at them and copy that instead of trying. This is all of Altoona's. I copied their whole thing. The org unit is, the number is 357. Yeah, let me see if I have one here that has a policy in it, like right here. Org unit 357, the format date for Altoona is set to month, day, year with 4 digits. So you can export that. Like I said, it's really messy. Okay, so let me make sure I'm back on the right screen. Back to this. Okay. Do we have any questions on searching the library settings? Okay. So now I'm going to get back to this Administration tab, Local Admin, and we'll look at the notifications. These are your notices that go out each day. I should be able to filter this one too. I hope I can do this on the test server. Owning library is okay, and this won't work on the test server either. It does work on production, but what you'll see here is you'll see the owning library, you'll see the name of the name of the notice. This stuff you don't need to really worry about. The hook enabled processing delay, that's all something that's set up when we set up the notice. It has to do whether it goes out as an email or goes out as print, whether it goes out, how long it's delayed. I know some of you like to have your hold notices delayed for maybe 30 minutes so you can get it on the hold shelf. So that's where the processing delay would be. Again, I think you should be able to see this in the production. We did change some permissions around there that didn't get copied over to test. If you have any problems or any questions about that, I know I get a lot of questions about, can I change the wording of a notice? I can change the wording of a notice if it's an email. If it's a print notice, I have to send it off to Equinox to get them to do it on the back end on the server end. So there may be a little bit of a day or two delay there till we get to it.
I have that up in production, Lugene, if you want me to.
Oh, okay. If you want to take the screen, go ahead.
So hopefully you can see this. This is how it looks.
Right. Oh, that's much better. You are on production, right?
I am on production.
Okay. Yes.
The whole policy screen did not load for me on production, so we'll get into that. But this one does, and so you can see those individual ones, and then you can see some of the fields that are involved. This would be another one that I would suggest not try to.
Can you get back to the screen with all of the? I think you're going to have to redo it.
think I have to go.
Yeah.
So if you just want to see what notices you have that are generating, this is a great way to do that. But I would definitely suggest getting some consultation and having Lugene change them, because I would be.
If you click on one of those check boxes in the first column, you have to double click it.
Oh, okay.
You have that same thing again, so you can scroll down and see what the text of your message is. Scroll down a little more. And you'll see it's all in HTML. And it's sort of like the print notices. It actually pulls in information from the database. You can see there where Katie's at right now. It says user address street 2. That's pulling in all the information from the patron account.
Yeah. So there's a lot of logic in here and a lot of database calls, and then it's actually the text itself of the notice for this one isn't in here. This is a print notice, I think. Yep. And so instead of actually this is referring, oh no, following library materials. Yeah, so the text of your notice is in here, but it's kind of buried in all of the, this might be JSON, I'm not sure. And then I don't know if you click save, I'm not sure. I don't know if it would actually let you save any changes. I don't know that LibAdmins have edit permissions.
So you can go in there and look, and then if you scroll down to the bottom, cancel.
So you can certainly go in and view them. I'm not going to try to fuss with anything because I am on production. So
yeah. And you'll see that we do have email and print notices. Like I said, the email notices Spark support can change. The print notices we have to send off to Equinox to get them to do it. Okay. Okay, do we have any questions on that? And this might be one of those little base-sized ones we do. Okay. All right, now I'm going to take the screen back, and I told you we would look at how to register a patron, or how to register a staff member. So, we're going to stop right now with the local admin tab. Partly because, like I said, a lot of the rest of this stuff is things that you really need to send to support. And the same thing if you're with the server administration. Anything in the server administration tab is all support. That's stuff we set up either when you migrate or afterwards when you ask for changes. So you won't be doing anything in the server admin. We do have the user permission editor under this tab. And I'm going to show you how to do this by starting with a staff member, because the user permission editor applies to staff member. So if you have a staff member, you'll register them the same way as you would anyone else. You would go to the register patron. And we do have a couple things in HelpSpot about this. And one of the things we'd like you to do is register with the username should be the shortcut of the library and the staff member's last name. We have a lot who are in there like Bob, and we don't know what library Bob belongs to. So if you put your shortcut in, so in this case it would be CALT, and then the staff member's last name. Okay. And that'll copy over into the OPAC staff client username. For the password, you can use the generated password, but we would prefer that you use something that's maybe a little more harder to break. So it should be something that's non-obvious, and because you want to really restrict access. If you're going to give this person a LibAdmin, you don't want a CERC clerk hacking into their account. But for the time being, I'm going to let that where it is, 7255. And these can always be changed afterwards too. So then I'll put, and okay, and date of birth. Some libraries collect this, some don't. I'm just going to pick one here. It is required at Altoona. Primary identification type, I'll hit other. Now, when I go down here, you'll see it already defaulted to the Home Library of Altoona because that's where I am registered as the person filling out this form. And when you go to the profile groups, let me scroll down here so we can see all of them. You want to go down to the staff, and they're kind of broken down. CERC Super and LibAdmin are circulation permissions. Copy Cataloger and Text Services are cataloging permissions. So a CERC supervisor may not have, just by virtue of being a CERC supervisor, does not have the ability to catalog. And then the CERC clerk is a very basic. That's the, they can just do basic CERC desk operations, check in, check out, things like that. So I'm going to make me a CERC supervisor, but I also want to be able to do copy cataloging. So you can assign a secondary group. And to do that, you're in the main profile permission group, just go right next door to that and click secondary groups. Click on group, scroll down to the one you want, copy cataloger, and add. And then you also want to remember to apply the changes. So now when I look at this, I see that the main permission group is CERC Super, but there's also a secondary group of copy cataloger. So this staff member can do everything a CERC supervisor does, but they also have the ability to be a copy cataloger with those permissions. And we'll scroll down here and we'll fill in the address. Because this is a library account, use the library address. I forget what street number is, it's Fifth Avenue.
1600 Fifth Ave.
Okay.
Doesn't matter, but.
I never know, I worked in that district for how many years. And Blair County requires the Blair County municipality. Again, because it's the staff, I'm going to make it Altoona. And you want to go up here and save this, okay?
And Joel reminds us that you can clone staff members, so you can start with a staff member who has similar permissions, and then go ahead and clone them, and then all that stuff's gonna fill in. I don't think it fills in the permission group, but I'd have to double check.
Okay, so now I've assigned the staff member, or registered the staff member. But now I have to assign working orgs to it. So this is where I would go to administration, local admin. No, administration, user permission editor. Sorry about that. And I want to put in that barcode I just created. Submit it. And this page comes up. So what I want to do, if this staff member is working only at Altoona, I click this button. If the staff member can work at all of the libraries in the system, we'll select everyone. And Katie, I don't know how you have yours set up. I think probably just the Altoona staff members can only work at Altoona, right?
So we have them all set up because if you don't, then you can't edit patrons or pay fines for patrons of those home libraries.
That's right. You do resource sharing among the counties. So yeah, so you would want these all selected.
Yeah, because
if you're a standalone library. Right, go ahead.
We have one card.
Right. If you're a standalone library, of course, if you're a standalone library, you'll probably only get your library in the checkbox. But if none of these boxes are checked, if I just create a staff account and I don't assign any work orgs, that staff member is going to go to the desk and they won't be able to check anything in or out. They won't be able to take any fines. I do get help desk tickets about that. I created this new patron account or this new staff account, and they can't do anything at the desk. That's because when I go in and look, they didn't have working location assigned or a work org. So you want to make sure that you assign the work orgs. And you can also see here what the permissions have, or what permissions that staff member has. These can't be changed. Again, we are looking at a permissions project, and that's part of the reason we're doing this, so you can see how all this works. But for the time being, you're limited to the permissions that are associated with that permission group. And you have to scroll all the way down here to the bottom of this to find the Save button. So once again, once you have everything, all that in place, and you have your work orgs assigned, you want to save. And we should get a box that says that it was successful. Yeah. Okay. So again, if you have a problem, if you set up a staff account and it's not working the way you expected it to, feel free to open a help desk ticket, but you do not need to open a help desk ticket to assign a staff account. But once that staff account leaves, or once that staff person leaves, there are a couple of things that you need to remember. If you had a shared login, like you had CircDesk 2 at the Circ desk, and that staff member knows that login, you want to change that password. That's just good practice to make sure that you change any shared passwords on a shared login. And when they leave, you also want to change the password on the staff account. Don't close it right away because there may be reports or something that you need, but change the password. Change the password as soon as they leave the building, because they can't access all this stuff from home if they download the workstation. And you just want to make sure that once they're no longer employed at the library, that they no longer have access to those things. And that's probably also a good idea to do with emails. Katie, I didn't know how you handle emails for a staff member that leaves. Email accounts. Do you change passwords?
Yeah, well, many of our staff members have known email addresses, so those just get deleted.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But then for the other ones, we change passwords.
Right. Okay. So, do we have any questions on registering staff members? Oh, Joel says yes, that's an annoying placement for saving. Angie wants to know who has permission to edit a staff account. Library admins do. I'm not sure about Circ Supers, but I know library admins do. I can check on Circ Supers. Okay.
I think what it is you can edit accounts that are your permission level and lower.
Okay.
So if I wanted to Circ Supervisor, I can do that. But if I want to change my password, or like I forgot my password, then I need another LibAdmin to do that.
Yeah, you can't change your own. For some reason, you can't edit your own account. You need someone else to do that.
Yeah.
So that's an Evergreen thing. I don't know what that's about, but yeah, you can't edit your own account. Okay. All right. So I think we've covered pretty much everything we wanted to cover in the server admin, local admin, and user permission. So we're just going to look briefly at these other three tabs that are under, or the other three things that are under the administration tab. And I think Katie's going to have a look at the cataloging tab as well, right?
Sure.
Okay. I'll hand it back over to you.
All right. So I just wanted to give kind of an overview of cataloging for those admins who may not be familiar, and some of the functions in here that you may find useful. We obviously have our two kinds of buckets. So there are three kinds of buckets of types of batch actions you can do in Evergreen, and those are patron buckets, record buckets, which is on the bib level. So if you wanted to, if you need to change your links for your e-audio resources or something like that, then you can make buckets that are whole records. You can also make buckets that are copies. So this is great if you have a bunch of things that you need to take off high demand or needs to be changed in some way. So I had a library that was taking the fees off of its DVDs. So I put them all in a bucket and made that change to all of them at once. Something else that you'll see is often catalogers will talk about individual bibs, and they'll actually reference the number of the bib itself. And so if you have that number, you can retrieve it directly from that number. Create new mark record is just creating a mark record from scratch. And then here I have, I don't have my logins set up in here, but because I'm in the test server, but you can also search for records to import from other services. And then the link checker and manage authorities aren't things that I have personally used. They're pretty in-depth cataloging things, usually done by consortial staff. So I just kind of wanted to walk you guys through that tab, and so you'd have a better sense for some of the things that your catalogers may be doing.
Yeah, as we saw the secondary permissions, if you have strictly LibAdmin, you cannot catalog, but this is what, as Katie said, this is just some of the magic that your catalogers can do for you, especially with the buckets. So, if you
and if you are someone who does those things, so for instance, I have LibAdmin and tech services permissions so that I can do both sets of those things without having to have a second login.
Okay, and Barb, we'll get to your question. She has a question about importing mark records.
Okay. Do you want to finish going through the other interfaces, and then we can talk a little bit about. I'm actually going to be able to send Barb some documentation to help her do that, so I'll get it together. It's totally doable, Barb. We do it all the time, and I'll pull that documentation for you while Lugene finishes up here, and then I can send that to you. Yeah, absolutely, Holly. Barb, will you, Holly, I have your email address. Barb, will you give it to me as well? And oh yeah, we can absolutely. It may already be on the support portal. That's what I was going to check. So if I can find the URL, I'll just put it in the chat. And if not, then I will get it uploaded into the support portal, and then I can send it once it's up. Then I can send a note to everybody who asked for it, telling them that it's up. Lugene, I think you're muted.
Yes, I am. Okay, now I'm unmuted. We have the acquisitions tab. It's there's only a couple libraries in Spark that use it. It's for libraries that do online ordering and want to import those records into Spark. For most libraries, it's not needed, but if you want to set it up, if you want to start to use it, let me know. The same thing with booking. Booking was basically a feature that came in for academic libraries. It's for creating reservations for rooms, things like that. You can use it, but for the most part, our public libraries don't. And you also have the same thing here under administration as acquisitions admin. This is where you would set up everything you need for acquisitions. And we also have serials admin. And not too many libraries use that either. This would be if you really wanted to track your periodicals as they came in. Most of our libraries just catalog them under the catalog like a regular book record. And the booking admin goes back to the booking module. This is where you would set that all up. And again, like I said, not many libraries use that. And we're not going to talk about reports today because the reports committee has a town hall meeting scheduled for next Wednesday. I had a note about it that I've lost, but it's next Wednesday. They'll be sending the connection information out. They'll do it through GoToMeeting, and it will be a live interactive process on how to edit report templates and how to set them up to fit your needs. So stay tuned for that. We did have a live support session scheduled for that time, but we're going to give that to the reports committee so they can do their town hall. Okay. And Katie, I'm going to give it back to you then because I think that covers everything we wanted to go over.
Yeah, I think it does. And thank you, Katie, for posting the reports town hall meetings. Everybody sees the details.
It's 2 to 4 next Wednesday.
Yes. Sorry, I was reading Jamie's question here. There are some, if your cataloger, Jamie, isn't the tech services permission, then she may not have the batch import permission, so you can check on that. And then if you're still having trouble, you can let support know. And for anybody who's curious, and I will send this to the people who specifically asked for it, the information on importing your ebooks and how to process the ebook records so they will display and be accessible to the right group of patrons, and then how to import them. Those instructions are in the on support.sparkpa.org under the tag ebooks, and I will send that specific URL out to the people who asked for it. And there is also, Jamie, some documentation on using Mark, the batch import. But yeah, the live support would be a great time as well to try to troubleshoot that one. Importing can be again one of those things that can be very specific based on the type of records that you're getting from your vendor and all that kind of stuff. So we'll definitely get that sorted out. Did anybody else have any? We've only got a few minutes before our 11 o'clock cutoff time here. Does anybody else have any additional questions?
And I do want to remind you, if you came late and you didn't enter your email address in the chat box, please do that because we'll have support surveys to send out to evaluate the training.
And as Gina and I had mentioned, we will be doing some little bite-sized videos of some of these tasks. So if there's anything we went over today that you're like, I don't think I could do that again, then let us know and we can make sure to prioritize that for something we're going to do a YouTube video for.
And this session is recorded, so we will be able to, as soon as it's processed and posted, you will be able to come back to it or share it with members of your library who weren't able to attend today.